On July the 8th, I escaped from my stepfather's house. And barefoot, I ran to the center of Tabriz, confident that I would find the Bab. The streets were full of people, and the commotion surrounding him, incredible. The whole city was in turmoil. The Bab's death warrant had been announced, and the people were trying to get a glimpse of him. He was being escorted by soldiers from the house of the governor to the central square when I found him. I broke through the ranks of the soldiers, and just as in my dream, threw myself at his feet. I cried out, "Send me not from thee, O Master. Wherever you go, let me follow you." He said, "Anis Sanusi, arise, and rest assured, you will be with me. Tomorrow, you shall witness what God has decreed." That night, we were taken to a room on the edge of the central square in Tabriz. There were the Bab, his secretary, Syed Hussein, and I in the small room, with many soldiers guarding the door. The atmosphere in that room I shall never forget. The Bab was so happy. He knew that he would be executed the next day. And he spoke about knowing that his mission on earth had been accomplished, despite the opposition of the divines and the government. No power had succeeded in quenching the flame of faith that his word had set ablaze. The coming of Baha'u'llah had been his constant theme, and he addressed him in these words, "O thou remnant of God, Baha'u'llah, I have sacrificed myself wholly for thee. I have accepted curses for thy sake, and have yearned for naught but martyrdom in the path of thy love."
Just before noon, July 9th, the Bab was giving his last instructions to his secretary when the attendant came to take him to his execution.
"What are you still doing here? You have been waiting around here since yesterday. We have business with your friend here. Get out!"
When the attendant interrupted the Bab's conversation with his secretary, the Bab said to him, "Not until I have said all those things that I wish to say can any earthly power silence me. Though all the world be armed against me, yet shall they be powerless to deter me from fulfilling to the last word my intention."
I am Sam Khan, and I profess the Christian faith. I have orders to execute you, but I have no ill will against you. If your cause be the cause of truth, then enable me to free myself from the obligation to shed your blood.
The Bab replied, "Follow your instructions, and if your intention be sincere, the Almighty is surely able to relieve you of your perplexity."
Regiment 1! Ready! Fire! Regiment 2! Ready! Fire! Regiment 3! Ready! Fire!
As soon as the smoke cleared away, an astounded multitude were looking upon a scene which their eyes could scarcely believe. There, standing before them, was Anis Sanusi, while the Bab had vanished from their sight. The ropes by which their bodies had been suspended were severed by the bullets, yet their bodies had escaped the fire of the 3 regiments. "The Bab had gone from our sight," shouted the voices of the bewildered onlookers. The guards began a frenzied search for the Bab, and they found him, sitting with his secretary in the cell he'd occupied the night before, calmly continuing his previously interrupted conversation. There was an expression of unruffled calm on his face. His body had emerged unscathed from the shower of bullets fired at him. "I have finished my conversation with Sayyid Hussein," the Bab told the attendant. "Now you may proceed to fulfill your intention." The attendant was too shaken to resume what he had already attempted. Refusing to continue, he left the scene and resigned his post. Sam Khan was likewise stunned by the force of this moment and ordered his regiment to leave the barracks. He refused his superior's command to continue and left. Agajan Khani Khamsi, head of the bodyguard, volunteered to carry out the execution, and a new regiment was brought in. On the same wall and in the same manner, the Bab and Ani Sanusi were suspended. Just before the order to fire, the Bab spoke to the gazing multitude. "O wayward generation, had you believed in me, every one of you would have followed the example of this youth, Ani Sanusi, who stood in rank above most of you, and willingly would have sacrificed himself in my path. The day will come when you will have recognized me. That day, I shall have ceased to be with you." Agajan Khani Khamse gave the command to fire.
Regiment 1, ready, fire! Regiment 2, ready, fire! Regiment 3, ready, fire!
The very moment the shots were fired, a gale of exceptional severity arose and swept over the whole city. A whirlwind of dust of incredible density obscured the light of the sun, and this continued until dusk. The bodies were then taken and dumped unceremoniously by a moat outside the gates of the city. Soldiers guarded them through the night. On the morning following the day of the martyrdom, the Russian consul in Tabriz, accompanied by an artist, went to that spot and ordered that a sketch be made of the remains as they lay beside the moat. It was such a faithful portrait of the Bab. No bullet had struck his forehead, his cheeks, or his lips. A smile seemed to still be lingering upon his countenance. His body, however, had been severely mutilated.